As he left the restaurant, a millionaire saw two hungry twin girls digging through the trash. When he asked what they were doing there, they revealed they were hungry and alone in the world. With a heavy heart, he decided to help them, not imagining the impact it would have on his own life. If you were touched by this beautiful story of resilience and love, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Continuing. The crisp autumn air of Boston wrapped around Nathan Reynolds as he stepped out the back door of the Gold Leaf, his upscale restaurant in the heart of Beacon Hill. The exclusive establishment had just closed for the night, and Nathan needed a moment of quiet before heading home to his penthouse overlooking the Charles River. At 43, he had built an empire of 5 high-end restaurants across New England, with the Gold Leaf as his crown jewel. His designer shoes clicked against the cobblestone as he pulled his cashmere coat tighter, but a rustling sound near the dumpsters stopped him short. In the dim light of the back alley, he spotted movement, small figures hunched over the restaurant's trash bins. "Hey, what are you doing there?" he called out, his voice more curious than angry. The movement stopped immediately. When Nathan stepped closer, his breath caught in his throat. 2 identical little girls, no older than 8, stared back at him with wide, frightened eyes. Their matching blonde hair was tangled, their thin faces smudged with dirt. They wore mismatched clothes that hung loosely on their small frames. "We're sorry, mister," one of them whispered, trembling slightly. "We weren't stealing nothing, just looking for food." Nathan's expression softened. Something about their vulnerability struck him deeply, touching a place he thought he'd buried long ago. "Are you hungry?" he asked gently, crouching down to their level. The girls exchanged a quick glance, seemingly deciding whether to run or stay. Finally, the one who had spoken nodded, her eyes downcast. "When's the last time you two had a proper meal?" "Yesterday morning," the second girl answered, her voice barely audible. "We had some cereal, but it's all gone now." Nathan felt his chest tighten. He gestured toward the restaurant. "How about I fix you something to eat? Something warm?" The twins looked at each other again, a silent communication passing between them. The first girl spoke up. "Our mom said not to go with strangers." "Smart mom," Nathan replied with a gentle smile. "How about this? We'll stay right here where people can see us through the windows, and I'll bring you some food. Deal?" After a moment's hesitation, they nodded in unison. Nathan hurried back inside, instructing his head chef Marco to prepare 2 hearty meals. While they waited, he returned to the girls who had moved to sit on a bench near the door. "I'm Nathan," he offered. "What are your names?" "I'm Lily," said the first girl who had spoken. "This is my sister Rose." "Nice to meet you, Lily and Rose. Food's coming right up." Within minutes, Marco appeared with 2 plates of chicken pasta, garlic bread, and vegetables. Nathan watched as the girls ate with such intensity that it was clear they hadn't had a decent meal in days. They tried to maintain some manners, but hunger overpowered propriety. "Where do you live?" Nathan asked once they had slowed down enough to talk. "Dorchester," Rose answered between bites. "With our mum, but she works nights and weekends in Providence. She's a nurse." "And your dad?" The girls looked down at their plates. "He left a long time ago," Lily said. "He comes around sometimes, but not much." "Who takes care of you when your mum's working?" "Mrs. Diaz used to," Rose explained. "But Mum couldn't pay her anymore, so now we take care of ourselves. We go to school and everything." Nathan tried to mask his shock. These little girls, alone in one of Boston's tougher neighborhoods, fending for themselves. "How did you end up here in Beacon Hill? It's pretty far from Dorchester." "We took the tea," Lily said, showing a surprising resourcefulness. "Mom left us money for food, but it ran out 3 days ago. We tried other places, but everyone chased us away." As they finished their meals, Nathan noticed how they carefully wrapped the remaining bread in napkins. "For tomorrow," Rose explained, catching his gaze. Nathan made a decision then. "You don't need to save that. I want you to come back tomorrow." "It's okay, after school. I'll have dinner waiting for you." The girls' faces showed clear skepticism. "Why would you do that?" Lily asked, her young face showing a wariness beyond her years. Nathan considered his answer carefully. because everyone needs help sometimes. When I was a kid, there were times when I didn't have enough to eat either." Their eyes widened in disbelief, looking at his expensive clothes and successful restaurant. "It's true," he continued. "I grew up in foster care in South Boston. If it wasn't for a few kind people who helped me along the way, I wouldn't be where I am today." Rose studied him intently. "You promise you're not going to ask for anything back?" The question hit Nathan like a physical blow. What had these children already experienced to ask such a thing? "I promise," he said firmly. "The only thing I want is to know you're not hungry." After walking them to the nearest tea station and giving them money for the fare, Nathan watched until they disappeared down the stairs. Back at the restaurant, he couldn't shake the image of those two identical faces, too thin and too serious for children so young. The next day, Nathan found himself repeatedly checking the clock. When 5 o'clock came and went with no sign of the twins, a weight settled in his stomach. By 6, he had convinced himself they weren't coming. "Marco," he called to his chef, "I need to step out for a while. Can you handle things?" Marco nodded, curious but professional enough not to ask questions. Nathan walked briskly to his Audi and entered the address into his GPS. Dorchester, specifically the area where most of the triple-deckers housed families struggling to make ends meet. The twins had mentioned their street name, and after driving slowly through the neighborhood, he found the weathered building they had described. Climbing the creaking stairs to the 3rd floor, Nathan hesitated before knocking on apartment 3B. There was no answer at first, so he knocked again, louder. Finally, a small voice called out, "Who is it?" "It's Nathan from the restaurant." The door opened a crack, and one blue eye peered out. Then the door swung wider, revealing Lily with a finger pressed to her lips. "Rose is sleeping," she whispered. "She's not feeling good." Nathan stepped into a small, dimly lit apartment. The furniture was sparse and worn, a sagging couch, a wobbly table with mismatched chairs, and a kitchen with bare cupboards. Despite these conditions, he could see attempts at keeping the place clean. A stack of school books sat neatly on the table next to crayon drawings pinned to the wall. "Why? Didn't you come to the restaurant today?" he asked gently. Lily looked down. "Rose got sick after school. I didn't want to leave her alone." Nathan moved toward a doorway where he could see Rose curled up on a mattress on the floor, covered with a thin blanket. Her cheeks were flushed with fever. "Has your mom been called?" he asked, alarmed. "I tried, but she's working a double shift. She can't leave or she'll lose her job." Nathan knelt beside the sick child, placing a hand on her forehead. She was burning up. "How long has she been like this?" "Since last night," Lily answered, her voice trembling. "I gave her water and the medicine Mom left, but it's not helping." Nathan made another decision then, one that would change all their lives forever, though he couldn't have known it at the time. "Pack some clothes," he said firmly. "Rose needs to see a doctor, and you both need somewhere safe to stay until your mom gets home." Nathan sat in the emergency room waiting area, Lily curled up asleep against his side, while doctors examined Rose. The last few hours had been a blur, calling his personal physician, who directed them to Boston Children's Hospital, carrying the feverish child to his car, and answering endless questions from medical staff who eyed him suspiciously when he couldn't provide basic information about the girls. "Mr. Reynolds?" a doctor in scrubs approached. "I'm Dr. Patel. Can we speak privately?" Nathan carefully extracted himself from Lily, who stirred but didn't wake. He followed Dr. Patel to a quiet corner. "Rose has pneumonia," she explained. "It's in the early stages but concerning given her weakened state. She's malnourished, Mr. Reynolds, and shows signs of long-term nutritional deficiency." Nathan ran a hand through his hair. "What about Lily? We should examine her too, but from what I can see, she's likely in a similar condition." "I'm not their father," Nathan confessed. "I found them yesterday going through my restaurant's garbage looking for food. Their mother works out of town, and they've been alone. I've been trying to reach her at the hospital in Providence where they said she works, but no one seems to know her." Dr. Patel's expression shifted from professional concern to alarm. "Mr. Reynolds, I'll need to contact social services. This is a clear case of child neglect." No, please, Nathan interjected. Their mother isn't neglectful, she's desperate. These girls are clean, they go to school, they're polite. She's trying, but she's alone. The doctor hesitated. Nevertheless, I have a legal obligation. Give me 24 hours, Nathan pleaded. Let me find their mother and bring her here. Then you can make your assessment. After a long moment, Dr. Patel nodded reluctantly. Rose needs to stay overnight for IV antibiotics and monitoring. Since you're not a legal guardian, this is irregular. But I'll allow you to stay with them until tomorrow. Evening after that, if their mother hasn't appeared, I'm calling social services. Nathan thanked her and returned to Lily, who had awakened and was looking around anxiously. Where's Rose? Is she okay? Her voice trembled. She's going to be fine, Nathan assured her, sitting beside her. She has pneumonia, a lung infection, but the doctors are giving her medicine. She needs to stay overnight. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Can I see her? Soon, he promised. First, can you tell me your full names and your mom's name and phone number? I need to contact her. I'm Lily Anderson. Rose is Rose Anderson. Mom's name is Sarah Anderson, she recited. She gave him a phone number, which Nathan immediately dialed. It's going to voicemail again, he said after the third attempt. She has to turn her phone off during shifts, Lily explained. What about the hospital where she works? What's it called? Lily's forehead creased. Providence something, I don't remember. Nathan made a mental note to start calling hospitals in Providence at first light. Is there anyone else we can call? Grandparents, aunts, or uncles? Lily shook her head. It's just us and Mom. A nurse approached to take them to Rose's room. The younger twin lay in a hospital bed that made her look even smaller, an IV in her arm and monitors beeping softly beside her. Lily rushed to her sister, grabbing her hand. You're going to be okay, Rosie, she whispered fiercely. Nathan stood back, watching the twins with a tightness in his chest. Something about these girls had awakened a protective instinct he didn't know he possessed. Throughout his adult life, he'd avoided serious relationships and the possibility of fatherhood, focusing instead on building his restaurant empire. Yet here he was, fighting for 2 children he'd met just yesterday. The night passed slowly. Nathan arranged for a cot so Lily could sleep beside her sister while he dozed uncomfortably in a chair. Morning brought a slight improvement in Rose's condition, though she remained weak and feverish. After a hospital breakfast that both girls picked at cautiously, Nathan left them watching cartoons while he stepped into the hallway to make calls. None of the hospitals in Providence had a Sarah Anderson on staff. He tried variations of the name, S. Anderson, Sarah A., but came up empty. The twins had been lying about something, but what and why? When he returned to the room, he found Lily drawing on a pad provided by a nurse while Rose slept. He sat beside the alert twin. Lily, he said gently, I need you to tell me the truth about your mom. I can't help you if I don't know what's really going on. Lily's hand stilled on the paper. Without looking up, she said in a small voice, Mom doesn't work in Providence. Where does she work? Different places. She cleans houses and offices at night. Sometimes she works at the diner near our apartment. Why did you tell me she was a nurse in Providence? Lily shrugged, her eyes still downcast. It sounds better. Kids make fun of you if your mom cleans toilets. Nathan felt a rush of compassion. There's nothing wrong with honest work, Lily. My mom, my foster mom, she cleaned houses too. This earned him a glance. Really? Really? Now how can we reach your mom? I need to tell her Rose is in the hospital. Lily bit her lip. She doesn't have a phone right now. It got shut off last week. The situation was worse than Nathan had imagined. Southworth, when is she supposed to come home? Sunday night. That's when she always comes home. It was Friday morning. Dr. Patel had given him until evening, and then social services would be called. The twins would be placed in emergency foster care. Possibly separated, the thought made Nathan's stomach churn. Lily, I want to help you and Rose and your mom, but I need to know everything. Where does your mom go when she's not home? After a long pause, Lily whispered, She stays with her boyfriend in Charlestown, but she comes home every Sunday to make sure we have food for the week and clean clothes for school. Nathan processed this information. The mother wasn't completely absent. She maintained some level of care, but leaving two 8-year-olds alone for days at a time was neglect by any definition. What about your dad? You mentioned he comes around sometimes? Lily's face darkened. He just comes when he wants money from Mom. He yells a lot. Sometimes he breaks things. We hide in the bathroom when he's there. Each revelation made the picture clearer and more disturbing. These girls had been walking a tightrope without a safety net, with adults who were either absent or threatening. Mr. Reynolds? A hospital social worker stood in the doorway. May I speak with you? In the hallway, the social worker, Ms. Torres, got straight to the point. Dr. Patel filled me in. I understand you're trying to locate the mother, but I need to inform you that I'll be filing a report with DCF today. These children cannot return to their current living situation. I know, Nathan agreed, surprising her. But before you make that call, I have a proposal. I'd like to provide temporary emergency housing for the girls while we locate their mother. I have plenty of space, resources, and I'm willing to undergo any background checks necessary. Ms. Torres looked skeptical. Mr. Reynolds, while I appreciate your concern, emergency fostering requires licensing and... I understand that in normal circumstances, Nathan interrupted, but these aren't normal circumstances. These girls trust me. They're terrified of the system, and with good reason. I grew up in foster care. I know how traumatic emergency placements can be. I'm sorry, but regulations exist for children's safety. At least let me try to find their mother first, Nathan pleaded. Give me until Sunday. If she doesn't show up at their apartment as Lily says she will, then I'll fully cooperate with whatever process you need to follow. Miss Torres considered. Him. You're very invested in children you just met. Nathan couldn't fully explain it himself. They remind me of someone, he said finally. Someone I couldn't help back then. After a lengthy discussion and several phone calls to supervisors, Ms. Torres agreed to a compromise. Nathan would be allowed to take the girls home once Rose was discharged, but a social worker would visit daily to check on them. Meanwhile, they would attempt to locate Sarah Anderson through various channels. Late that afternoon, Dr. Patel declared Rose well enough to leave, with strict instructions for rest and medication. As Nathan helped the girls into his car, he realized he was now responsible for two vulnerable children who were virtual strangers. Yet somehow it felt right. Are we going home now? Rose asked weakly from the back seat, her first words directly to him. Nathan met her eyes in the rearview mirror. Not yet. You're going to stay at my place for a few days until your mom comes back and we sort things out. Your restaurant? Lily asked, confused. Nathan smiled. No, my home. I have a big apartment with plenty of room. You'll be safe there. As they drove through Boston streets toward his Beacon Hill townhouse, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that his life had irrevocably changed. Whatever happened next, he knew he couldn't simply walk away from these girls. Something about their resilience in the face of adversity, their fierce protection of each other, had awakened something in him that had been dormant for too long. The real question was what would happen when their mother finally appeared, and what exactly would he discover when Sunday came? Nathan's townhouse felt different with children in it. The sleek minimalist space designed by Boston's top interior decorator, all clean lines, neutral tones, and carefully curated art, suddenly seemed sterile and unwelcoming through the girl's eyes. He watched as they stood awkwardly in his living room, afraid to touch anything. Make yourselves at home, he encouraged, setting down the small backpack of belongings they'd retrieved from their apartment. Are you hungry? Rose, still weak, from her illness, nodded tentatively. Nathan led them to his rarely used kitchen, realizing he had little suitable for children. After a quick inventory, he managed to prepare grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, a comfort food from his own childhood. This is the biggest kitchen I've ever seen, Lily remarked, running her hand along the marble countertop. Do you cook at home? Nathan asked, trying to establish a normal conversation. Sometimes, Rose said quietly. Mum taught us how to make eggs and pasta and sandwiches. She leaves us food for the week, Lily added quickly, as if defending their mother. Hers who wouldn't, but sometimes it runs out early. Nathan nodded, choosing his words carefully. It must be hard when she's away so much. The twins exchanged a glance. We manage, Lily said, with a shrug that tried to seem casual, but betrayed years of forced self-reliance. After dinner, Nathan showed them to the guest room with its queen-sized bed. Will you be okay sharing? I can make up the sofa in my office if you prefer separate beds. We always sleep together, Rose explained, her voice gaining strength as she grew more comfortable. Lily helps me when I have bad dreams. Nathan found clean t-shirts for them to sleep in and showed them the adjoining bathroom with its oversized tub. How about a bath before bed? It might help you feel better, Rose. The mention of a bath transformed their faces. For the first time, they looked genuinely excited. Can we use the bubbles? Lily pointed to the expensive bath products lining the marble shelf. Of course, Nathan smiled, filling the tub and adding a generous pour of bubble bath. He left them to enjoy their bath, hearing delighted giggles through the door as he went to prepare his office for the social worker's visit the next morning. An hour later, he found both girls clean and drowsy, swamped in his t-shirts, their wet hair combed and their small faces scrubbed pink. They climbed into the big bed, immediately gravitating toward each other in the center. Will you tell us a story? Rose asked unexpectedly. Nathan hadn't been asked to tell a bedtime story since, well, never. I'm not sure I know any good ones, he admitted. Make one up, Lily suggested. Mom makes them up for us when she's home. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed thinking. Once upon a time, he began hesitantly, there were two princesses who were twins. They lived in a small cottage in the forest and took care of each other. When their mother, the queen, had to travel to far-off kingdoms. The story wasn't particularly creative, but the girls listened with rapt attention, their eyelids growing heavy. By the time he finished, they were both asleep, hands clasped between them. Nathan stood quietly, tucking the duvet around their small shoulders and turning off the lamp. In the doorway, he paused, looking back at their peaceful faces. Something about them stirred a memory he couldn't quite place, a feeling of déjà vu that had been nagging at him since their first meeting. The following day brought a flurry of activity. Ms. Torres arrived early to inspect Nathan's home and interview the girls separately. Meanwhile, Nathan's assistant brought over children's clothes, books, and toys, purchased in a whirlwind shopping expedition. You have a lovely home, Mr. Reynolds, Ms. Torres commented after her inspection. But I'm still concerned about this unusual arrangement. How are the girls? Nathan asked, ignoring her concern. Physically, they're improving. Rose needs to continue her antibiotics, and both would benefit from better nutrition. Emotionally, she hesitated. They're remarkably resilient, but showing signs of anxiety and abandonment issues. They're clearly devoted to each other and protective of their mother, despite the situation. And what about finding her? Any progress? Ms. Torres shook her head. Sarah Anderson doesn't appear in any of our databases. The address is registered to a landlord who rents month to month, cash only. No employment records, no credit cards, no driver's license renewal in the past year. It's almost as if she's deliberately staying off the grid. Nathan frowned. The girls mentioned she'll be at the apartment tomorrow evening. I plan to be there when she arrives. We'll have an officer accompany you, Ms. Torres began, but Nathan cut her off. No, if she sees police, she might run. These girls need their mother. They just need her to be present and supported. Ms. Torres studied him carefully. You seem very invested in this family's welfare, Mr. Reynolds. May I ask why? Nathan struggled to articulate the connection he felt. I told you, I was in foster care. I know what it's like to feel abandoned, to be separated from siblings. These girls deserve better than that. After Ms. Torres left, promising to return the next day, Nathan found the twins in the guest room, examining their new clothes with wide eyes. Are these really for us? Rose asked, holding up a blue dress. With wonder. All yours, Nathan confirmed. How are you feeling today, Rose? Better, she said, her voice stronger than the day before. Can we watch TV? You have the biggest TV I've ever seen. Nathan laughed. Sure. And I thought we might bake cookies this afternoon. Would you like that? Their enthusiastic response warmed something in him. The day passed in a pleasant domestic rhythm, watching cartoons, baking chocolate chip cookies, and listening to the twins gradually open up about their school, their friends, and their life. They carefully avoided mentioning their mother or father, and Nathan didn't press. That evening, after tucking them in, Nathan sat in his study reviewing what little information he had about Sarah Anderson. Something about the situation felt off, but he couldn't identify what. The girls clearly loved their mother and didn't appear afraid of her return, just her absence. Whatever her failings, she wasn't abusive, just overwhelmed and absent. Sunday. Morning brought sunshine streaming through the windows and the smell of pancakes. Nathan had woken early to prepare breakfast, surprising himself with his enthusiasm. The girls appeared in the kitchen doorway in their new pajamas, hair tousled from sleep. "You made pancakes," Lily exclaimed, climbing onto a stool at the counter. "With chocolate chips," Nathan confirmed, sliding plates in front of them. "Big day today. Your mom should be home this evening." The twins exchanged glances but said nothing, focusing on their breakfast with unusual intensity. "You know," Nathan said casually, "when we see your mom, I'd like to talk to her about ways I might be able to help your family. Would that be okay with you?" Rose looked up. "What kind of help?" "Well, maybe I could help her find a better job or a more reliable place to live. Maybe she could work at one of my restaurants." Lily's fork paused midway to her mouth. "You'd do that? Why?" It was the question they'd been dancing around since the beginning. Why would a wealthy stranger invest so much in their welfare? Nathan himself wasn't entirely sure, but he answered honestly. "Because everyone deserves a chance. And because I like you two. You remind me of someone." "Who?" Rose asked curiously. Nathan hesitated. "Someone I knew a long time ago." After breakfast, they spent the day playing board games and watching movies. Nathan marveled at how quickly he'd adapted to having children in his space, how natural it felt. By late afternoon, an anticipatory tension had settled over the household. At 5 o'clock, Nathan announced it was time to go to their apartment to meet their mother. The drive to Dorchester was quiet, the twins unusually subdued in the back seat. As they approached the weathered triple-decker, Nathan noticed a light on in the third-floor window. "Is that your apartment?" he asked, pointing. Lily nodded. "Mum's home early." Nathan parked and helped Rose from the car, noting how she still tired easily. As they climbed the stairs, he felt an unexpected nervousness. What kind of woman was Sarah Anderson? How would she react to a stranger who had taken temporary custody of her children? At the door to 3B, Nathan hesitated, then knocked firmly. There was movement inside, and then the door swung open. Nathan's world tilted on its axis. Standing before him was a face he hadn't seen in almost a decade, but one he would recognize anywhere. The same heart-shaped face, the same blue eyes that her daughters had inherited. Her blonde hair was darker now, streaked with premature gray, and her face showed the strain of years of hardship, but it was unmistakably her. "Sarah," he breathed, his voice barely audible. She stared at him in shock, her face draining of color. "Nathan, what are you—" Her gaze dropped to her daughters standing beside him, and her expression shifted from shock to fear. "Lily, Rose, what's going on?" The twins rushed forward, wrapping their arms around their mother's waist. "Mum, you're early," Lily exclaimed. "Mr. Reynolds has been taking care of us," Rose explained, her voice muffled against her mother's shirt. "I was sick, and he took me to the hospital." Sarah's eyes never left Nathan's face, a complex mixture of emotions playing across her features: disbelief, fear, gratitude, and something deeper that Nathan couldn't interpret. "May we come in?" he asked quietly. "We have a lot to talk about." Sarah stepped back wordlessly, ushering her daughters inside while keeping a wary distance from Nathan. Once inside, she knelt to examine Rose closely, touching her forehead and peering into her eyes. "Pneumonia?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. "Early stages," Nathan confirmed. "She's on antibiotics. The doctor says she'll make a full recovery." Sarah nodded, then turned to both girls. "Can you go to your room for a few minutes? I need to talk to Mr. Reynolds alone." Once the twins had reluctantly retreated to their bedroom, Sarah faced Nathan, her arms crossed protectively across her chest. "Of all the people in Boston," she said quietly, "how is it possible that my daughters ended up with you?" "I've been asking myself the same question," Nathan replied. "I had no idea they were yours, Sarah. Not until this moment." 8 years, she said, a slight tremor in her voice. 8 years since you walked away, and now you show up with my daughters in tow." Nathan processed her words slowly, his mind racing to connect dots that suddenly seemed blindingly obvious. The twins' age, their familiar features, the inexplicable pull he'd felt toward them from the first moment. 8 years, he repeated. "They're 8 years old." Sarah held his gaze steadily, watching as realization dawned across his face. "Are they—" He couldn't finish the sentence, the possibility too overwhelming. "Yes," Sarah answered simply. "They're yours, Nathan. Lily and Rose are your daughters." Nathan sank onto the worn sofa, his legs suddenly unable to support him. The revelation hit with the force of a physical blow, sending his mind reeling through memories he'd locked away years ago. "Why didn't you tell me?" he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah remained standing, her posture defensive. "Tell you? You made it perfectly clear our relationship was temporary. You were focused on expanding your restaurant business. Children weren't part of your plan." Bitterness edged her words. "By the time I found out I was pregnant, you'd already moved on. I had a right to know I had daughters. And they had a right to a father who wanted them," Sarah shot back. "Not someone who'd resent her existence." The accusation stung, but Nathan couldn't deny its potential truth. 8 years ago, he had been singularly focused on building his empire, viewing relationships as temporary distractions. Would he have welcomed the news of impending fatherhood? He honestly didn't know. "I've tried to give them a good life," Sarah continued, her voice softening. "It hasn't been easy, but they've never gone without the important things: love, education, a sense of security." Nathan glanced around the sparse apartment with its mismatched furniture and bare cupboards. "They were digging through my restaurant's garbage for food, Sarah. Rose developed pneumonia because she was malnourished. What happened?" Sarah's composed facade cracked. She sank into a chair across from him, suddenly looking exhausted. "I lost my steady job 3 months ago. The property management company I worked for went bankrupt. I've been piecing together night shifts at diners, cleaning houses, whatever I can find. My boyfriend offered to let me stay with him to save on rent, but," she hesitated, "he's not comfortable with children." "So you left them alone," Nathan said, unable to keep the judgment from his voice. "I had no choice," Sarah's eyes flashed. "Childcare costs more than I can earn. I made sure they had food, checked on them by calling the neighbor's phone, came home every weekend to stock the fridge and help with homework. I was doing the best I could with impossible choices." They sat in charged silence, 8 years of separate lives and unspoken truths between them. "The social worker is involved now," Nathan finally said. "Ms. Torres, she'll be expecting to meet with you tomorrow." Fear crossed Sarah's face. "Are they going to take my girls?" "Not if we can present a plan that ensures their welfare." Nathan leaned forward. "Sarah, regardless of our past, those girls are my daughters too. I want to help." "What kind of help?" Suspicion colored her tone. "Financial support, for starters. A safe place to live. Maybe a position at one of my restaurants with regular hours and benefits." He hesitated. "I want to be part of their lives, Sarah. I've missed 8 years already." Sarah studied him, searching for ulterior motives. "And what do you want in return?" "Just the chance to know them, to be their father." The word felt strange on his tongue, yet undeniably right. Before Sarah could respond, the bedroom door creaked open and 2 identical faces peered out. "Are you fighting?" Lily asked, her young voice serious. "No, sweetheart," Sarah reassured her. "We're just talking about grown-up things." "Like what?" Rose pressed, the twins venturing further into the living room. Nathan and Sarah exchanged a look. This moment would shape the twins' lives forever, and neither had prepared for it. "Girls," Sarah began hesitantly, Mr. Reynolds and I knew each other a long time ago before you were born. Were you friends? Lily asked, her perceptive gaze shifting between the adults. Yes, Sarah answered. We were close friends. Nathan watched the twins' reactions carefully. Your mom and I have been talking about how I might help your family. Maybe find your mom a job at one of my restaurants and a better place for you all to live. The girls exchanged their silent twin communication. Would we still be together? Rose asked, the question revealing their deepest fear. Of course, Sarah assured them, opening her arms. The twins rushed to her, climbing onto her lap despite being almost too big for it. We'll always be together. Nathan felt a pang watching their closeness, a bond forged through years of shared struggle, one he had no part in. In fact, he said, making a decision, I was thinking you might all stay at my place for a while, until we figure things out. There's plenty of room. Sarah's head snapped up. Nathan, I don't think... Just temporarily, he clarified. It's practical. Rose needs to finish her antibiotics. You need a stable environment to meet with social services. And my place is close to their school. Can we, Mom, please? The twins looked up at Sarah with pleading eyes. His bathtub is huge and he has every channel on TV. A smile ghosted across Sarah's face at their enthusiasm. We'll see. First, I need to talk more with Mr. Reynolds. Why do you call him that? Lily asked. If you were friends, why don't you call him Nathan? An uncomfortable silence fell. Sarah met Nathan's eyes over the twins' heads, a silent question, passing between them. It was too soon, they both knew, to reveal the full truth. The girls had experienced enough upheaval. You're right, Sarah said finally. Nathan and I were good friends, and you can call him Nathan too if he doesn't mind. I'd like that, Nathan confirmed, warmth spreading through him at this small victory. The conversation shifted to practical matters. Packing, essentials, notifying the school of their temporary address change, and arranging to meet Ms. Torres the following day. Throughout the evening, Nathan found himself watching the twins with new awareness, searching for hints of himself in their features. The shape of Rose's eyes, the determined set of Lily's jaw, the way they both tilted their heads when considering. A question, all reflections he'd somehow missed before. By nightfall, the four of them were installed in Nathan's townhouse, the girls excitedly showing their mother around their temporary home. Sarah remained reserved, accepting the guest room with quiet dignity, while the twins bunked in the adjoining room. After the girls were asleep, Sarah and Nathan sat in his kitchen, cups of untouched tea between them. They have your smile, Nathan said quietly. Sarah looked up, surprised. Most people say they look just like me. On the surface, maybe, but there are moments, expressions, mannerisms, when I see myself in them. He paused. I've missed so much. That wasn't my choice alone, Sarah reminded him, though her voice lacked its earlier edge. I know, Nathan acknowledged, but I'd like to make different choices now if you'll let me. Sarah wrapped her hands around her mug. The girls are my priority, Nathan. They always have been. If you're going to be in their lives, it needs to be consistently, not just when it's convenient or novel. I understand that, he assured her. I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago, Sarah. Building my business used to be everything to me, but lately, he searched for words. Lately, it's felt empty. Meeting the girls even before I knew who they were, it woke something in me. Paternal instinct, Sarah observed wryly. Maybe, Nathan conceded, but it's more than that. They're extraordinary children, Sarah. You've done an amazing job raising them despite the challenges. The compliment seemed to catch her off guard, softening her expression. They are amazing, aren't they? So resilient, so kind to each other. They shared a moment of parental pride, strange yet natural in its sudden emergence. What happens now? Sarah asked, the practical question hanging between them. Tomorrow we meet with Ms. Torres. We present our plan for ensuring the girls' welfare. I've already spoken with my lawyer about establishing child support and visitation. Sarah raised an eyebrow. You work quickly. When it matters, Nathan replied simply. The meeting with Ms. Torres the next morning was tense but productive. Sarah explained her recent financial difficulties and the steps she was taking to secure stable employment. Nathan outlined his proposal for support, including an apartment in a building he owned near the girls' school, and a management position at the Gold Leaf with flexible hours. And you're the biological father? Ms. Torres confirmed, looking between them. Yes, Nathan answered without hesitation. I wasn't aware until yesterday, but I'm prepared to take a paternity test to establish legal rights and responsibilities. Ms. Torres made notes. This is an unusual situation, but not unprecedented. Ms. Anderson, are you comfortable with this arrangement? Sarah hesitated. I'm willing to accept Nathan's help for the girl's sake, but I want to maintain primary custody. Of course, Nathan agreed. Quickly. I'm not looking to disrupt their lives, just to improve them and be part of them. After the meeting, with a tentative agreement in place and a follow-up scheduled for the following week, life settled into an uneasy routine. Nathan adjusted his work schedule to be home in the afternoons when the twins returned from school. Sarah started training at the Gold Leaf, proving herself a quick study, with a natural talent for organization that impressed even Marco, Nathan's exacting head chef. The twins, meanwhile, blossomed in their new environment. Rose regained her strength, her cheeks filling out with proper nutrition. Lily revealed a sharp mind for numbers, spending hours with Nathan learning the basics of business math. Both girls approached their new circumstances with cautious optimism, watching the fragile truce between their mother and Nathan with perceptive eyes. 2 weeks into their arrangement, Nathan returned home to find Sarah sitting on his couch, a troubled expression on her face. What's wrong? He asked, immediately concerned. Where are the girls? Upstairs doing homework, she assured him. Nathan, we need to talk. I got a call today from Jim, the girl's father. Nathan felt a surge of territorial possessiveness. I'm their father. Biologically, yes, Sarah acknowledged. But as far as they know, Jim Roberts is their father. He was involved briefly when they were toddlers. The same Jim they hide from in the bathroom? The one who breaks things when he's angry? Nathan's voice rose. He has problems, Sarah admitted. Drinking mostly, but he does have a relationship with them, however flawed. What did he want? Sarah looked down at her hands. He heard through mutual acquaintances that our situation has improved. He wants to see the girls, and money, of course. Absolutely not, Nathan stated flatly. He abandoned them. It's not that simple, Sarah sighed. Legally, he's been in their lives. His name is on their birth certificates. Nathan stared at her. You put his name on their birth certificates? Not mine. You were gone, Sarah reminded him. Jim was there when they were born. He offered to help. And then became an alcoholic who terrifies them, Nathan added bitterly. I'm just telling you because he knows where we are now. He might show up, and I wanted you to be prepared. Nathan paced the room, anger coursing through him. We need to tell the girls the truth, Sarah, about who I really am to them. Sarah's expression grew alarmed. It's too soon. They're just starting to feel secure again. They deserve to know, Nathan insisted, especially if this Jim character is going to come around making claims on them. Their debate was interrupted by the sound of footsteps on the stairs. Both adults fell silent as Lily appeared in the doorway, her expression serious. Is something wrong? She asked, her perceptive gaze moving between them. Nathan and Sarah exchanged a look, the decision hanging between them. Finally, Sarah nodded slightly. Lily, could you get Rose and come down here? Sarah asked gently. We need to talk to you both about something important. As Lily disappeared upstairs, Nathan moved to sit beside Sarah on the couch, their shoulders almost touching. Are you sure? He asked quietly. Sarah took a deep breath. No, but you're right. They deserve the truth. And if Jim is going to complicate things, they should hear it from us first. A moment later, the twins appeared, identical expressions of curiosity and concern on their faces. They sat on the ottoman across from the adults, instinctively holding hands. Girls, Sarah began, her voice steady despite her obvious nervousness. There's something important that Nathan and I need to tell you, something about your family. The twins tightened their grip on each other, bracing for bad news with a practiced resilience that broke Nathan's heart. It's nothing bad, he assured them quickly. Actually, I hope, it might be something good. Girls, Sarah began again, her voice gentle but firm. You know how families can look different. Some kids have a mum and dad who live together, some have parents who live apart, and some have step-parents or other grown-ups who care for them. The twins nodded solemnly, their identical blue eyes focused intently on their mother. Well, the truth is, Sarah continued, Jim isn't actually your biological father. Lily's forehead creased. What does biological mean? It means the person whose DNA helped create you, Nathan explained. The person who, along with your mother, made you. If Jim isn't our real dad, then who is? Rose asked, her voice small. Sarah took a deep breath. Nathan is your biological father. The statement hung in the air, heavy with implications. The twins stared at Nathan with wide, shocked eyes, their expressions unreadable. But Lily began, struggling to process this revelation. But you just met us at the restaurant. I didn't know, Nathan explained, leaning forward. Your mom and I knew each other a long time ago before you were born, but we lost touch, and I didn't know about you until yesterday. Is that why you helped us? Rose asked, her voice tinged with suspicion. Because you're our real dad? No, Nathan answered honestly. I helped you because you needed help. Finding out I'm your father was just as surprising to me as it is to you. The twins exchanged one of their silent communications, their fingers still intertwined. Does this mean Jim isn't our dad anymore? Lily asked, turning back to Sarah. Sarah hesitated. Jim was part of your lives when you were very little. He cared for you in his way, but Nathan is your biological father, and he wants to be part of your lives now. What does that mean? Rose pressed. Will we have to go back and forth between houses? No, Nathan assured them quickly. Nothing has to change right away. We can figure things out together, at whatever pace feels comfortable for you. Lily, ever the practical one, had another concern. Will we have to call you Dad? Nathan felt a pang at the question, but kept his expression neutral. You can call me whatever makes you comfortable. Nathan is fine for now. The conversation continued, with the twins asking surprisingly insightful questions about how this would affect their daily lives, their school, their friends. Sarah and Nathan answered as honestly as they could, emphasizing that the girls' well-being was the priority for both of them. I have one more question, Rose said finally, her voice serious. If you're our real dad, does that mean we're rich now too? The tension broke as the adults laughed, relieved by the childlike practicality of the question. It means you'll always have what you need, Nathan assured her, and some of what you want too. But more importantly, it means you have another person who loves you and will always be there for you. The revelation settled into their household routine more smoothly than either adult had anticipated. The twins, resilient and adaptable as ever, seemed to accept the news with a matter-of-factness that surprised both Sarah and Nathan. While they didn't immediately embrace Nathan as dad, they did begin to include him in their private twin world, sharing stories, asking for help with homework, even occasionally seeking comfort from him when they were upset. Over the following weeks, they developed a rhythm as an unconventional family. Sarah continued working at the Gold Leaf, quickly becoming indispensable to Marco with her organizational skills. Nathan adjusted his schedule to be home when the girls returned from school, helping with homework and introducing them to the joys of cooking. Weekends were spent exploring Boston, museums, parks, boat rides on the Charles River, creating new memories together. Nathan and Sarah maintained a careful distance, their relationship focused solely on co-parenting, but Nathan found himself increasingly drawn to this new version of Sarah, more confident, fiercely protective of her daughters, determined to stand on her own feet despite accepting his help. He respected her insistence on paying reduced rent for the apartment he provided and her refusal to accept personal gifts, only those meant for the twins. 1 month after the revelation, Nathan completed the legal process of establishing paternity and began formal child support payments. The twins had just started visiting his townhouse for occasional overnights, a step toward the shared custody arrangement they were building. It was during one of these visits, a quiet Saturday morning, with the twins still asleep upstairs, that the doorbell rang. Nathan, halfway through preparing chocolate chip pancakes, now a family tradition, wiped his hands and went to answer it. A man stood on his doorstep, mid-30s, unshaven, wearing a rumpled jacket despite the warm spring day. His bloodshot, eyes narrowed as he took in Nathan's expensive home. "Can I help you?" Nathan asked, already suspecting the answer. "I'm looking for Sarah Anderson," the man replied, his words slightly slurred despite the early hour. "And my daughters, I know they're here." Jim Roberts. Nathan's fingers tightened on the doorframe. "Sarah doesn't live here, and they're not your daughters." Jim's face hardened. "The hell they aren't. I raised those girls while you were off getting rich. I'm on their birth certificates." "You abandoned them," Nathan countered, keeping his voice low to avoid waking the twins. "Left them alone for days, terrified them when you did show up. You have no rights here." "That's not for you to decide," Jim sneered. "I want to see my kids." "They're asleep," Nathan said firmly, "and even if they weren't, I wouldn't let you near them in your condition. You're drunk at 9 in the morning. Jim took a step forward, trying to look past Nathan into the house. "You think you can just buy your way into their lives? Play daddy with your fancy house and expensive toys? Those are my girls." Nathan blocked the doorway. "Leave now, or I'm calling the police." Something dangerous flashed in Jim's eyes. "This isn't over. Sarah knows I got rights. You can't keep my kids from me." "They're not your kids," Nathan repeated, his patience evaporating. "Biologically or legally, and if you come near them again, I'll get a restraining order." Jim jabbed a finger at Nathan's chest. "You rich guys think you can take whatever you want, but I was there when they were born. I was there when they took their first steps. Where were you?" The accusation hit its mark. Nathan's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. "I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Go home, Jim. Sober up." With a final glare, Jim turned and stumbled down the steps. Nathan watched, until he disappeared around the corner, then closed the door, his heart racing. When he turned, he found Lily standing in the hallway, her expression solemn. "Was that Jim?" she asked quietly. Nathan hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. Did you hear?" "What we said?" "Some of it," she admitted. "Is he going to take us away?" "No," Nathan assured her firmly, kneeling to her level. "No one is going to take you away, Lily. You're safe here." She studied his face, searching for truth. "He gets really mad sometimes. He might come back. If he does, I'll handle it," Nathan promised. "My job is to protect you and Rose now, and that's what I'm going to do." After Lily returned upstairs, Nathan called Sarah, explaining Jim's visit in measured tones to avoid alarming. "Hurty, I knew this would happen," Sarah sighed. "Once he heard we were staying somewhere nice, that there was money involved. I'll talk to him." "No," Nathan said firmly. "Let me handle this. I'm going to call my lawyer today and start the process of having his name removed from their birth certificates. I want to adopt them, Sarah." There was a long pause. "Adoption is a big step, Nathan. We've only been co-parenting for a month." "I know it's fast," he acknowledged, "but Jim is unstable and potentially dangerous. Legal adoption would give the girls more protection." "Let me think about it," Sarah replied. "In the meantime, I'll get a restraining order. He's violated the terms of our last custody agreement by showing up drunk." After they hung up, Nathan completed the pancakes, his mind racing with contingency plans. When the twins came down for breakfast, he maintained a cheerful facade, but throughout the day he found himself checking the windows, startling at unexpected sounds. That evening, after returning the twins to Sarah at their new apartment, Nathan met with his lawyer, Michael Davidson, at the Gold Leaf. "Jim Roberts does have legal standing," Michael explained, after reviewing the documents Nathan had provided. "His name is on the birth certificates, and there's evidence he acted as their father for the first few years." "Evidence that he later abandoned them," Nathan pointed out. "Left them alone, showed up drunk and violent." "That will help our case," Michael agreed. "But removing an established legal father isn't simple, even with biological proof. The courts consider stability and the children's best interests paramount. And it's in their best interest to have a father who actually cares for them, Nathan insisted. Michael studied him. You've become very attached very quickly. They're my daughters, Nathan said simply. I missed 8 years. I'm not missing any more. The lawyer nodded. Then we need a two-pronged approach. First, we file for the restraining order immediately based on Jim's history of domestic disturbance and today's incident. Second, we petition for removal of paternity and concurrent adoption by you. How long will that take? Months, possibly a year. These cases are complex. Nathan frowned. That's too long. Jim could cause real harm in that time. The restraining order will help, Michael assured him. And there's one more option that could expedite things, though it's not something I'd normally suggest so early. In co-parenting. What? If you and Sarah were to marry, the adoption process would be significantly streamlined. As her spouse, you'd have presumptive paternity rights that would supersede Jim's claim, especially with biological confirmation. Nathan sat back, surprised. Marriage? We've only been back in each other's lives for a month. I'm not suggesting it as a romantic solution, Michael clarified. Merely a legal one. You wouldn't be the first couple to marry for practical reasons related to children. Nathan mulled this over. He couldn't deny the practical benefits, but marriage was a major step, one he wasn't sure Sarah would even consider. Their relationship, while cordial, remained focused entirely on the twins. Let's focus on the restraining order for now, he decided, and start the paternity challenge process. The following week brought a flurry of legal activity. Sarah obtained a temporary restraining order against Jim, preventing him from coming within 500 feet of her, the twins, their school, or their home. Nathan filed paperwork challenging Jim's paternity and asserting his own biological rights. The twins, bewildered by the sudden increase in grown-up stuff, clung to their routines with determination. Then, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. Nathan was in a meeting at his newest restaurant location when his phone rang. Seeing the twins' school on the caller ID, he excused himself immediately. Mr. Reynolds, this is Principal Warner from Brookline Elementary. There's been an incident involving Lily and Rose. Nathan's heart raced. Are they hurt? No, they're safe in my office, the principal assured him. But a man claiming to be their father attempted to remove them from school during lunch period. When the front office contacted Ms. Anderson to verify, he became agitated and left before security could respond. Jim Roberts, Nathan supplied, already grabbing his coat. There's a restraining order against him. Yes, Ms. Anderson mentioned that when I reached her. She's on her way, but she's across town at your restaurant. She asked if you could get here first. I'm on my way, Nathan promised, already heading for his car. At the school, he found the twins huddled together in the principal's office, their faces pale but composed. Girls, he breathed, dropping to his knees beside them. Are you okay? Nodded in unison. We saw Jim in the playground, Lily explained. He told us to come with him, that he was taking us to get ice cream. But we remembered what Mom said about not going with him, Rose continued. So we told the teacher he wasn't supposed to be. There. Pride surged through Nathan. You did exactly the right thing. Principal Warner handed Nathan a form. We're updating our security protocols. Since there's a restraining order, we need a current photo of Mr. Roberts and a list of approved adults who can pick up the girls. Nathan added his name to the short list, right below Sarah's. The action, simple as it was, felt momentous, an official acknowledgement of his place in their lives. Sarah arrived minutes later, breathless and frantic. The sight of the twins, safe and unharmed, visibly relieved her, but her eyes blazed with anger. This has to stop, she said to Nathan. As they left the school, each holding a twin's hand. The restraining order isn't enough. Michael suggested something, Nathan began hesitantly. It's unorthodox, but it would strengthen our legal position considerably. Sarah glanced at him. What? Nathan shook his head slightly, indicating, they should discuss it later, away from the twins' attentive ears. That evening, after the girls were asleep in their apartment, Nathan explained Michael's suggestion about marriage. To his surprise, Sarah didn't immediately dismiss it. It would be a legal arrangement, he emphasized. Nothing more than a way to protect the girls. Sarah sat quietly for a long moment. When we were together before, you told me you never wanted marriage or children, that your restaurants were your life's work. I was different then, Nathan admitted. Younger, more selfish. I didn't understand what really matters. And now you do? I'm learning, he said honestly. Every day with them I learn more about what's important. Sarah studied him, her expression unreadable. I need time to think about this. It's not just a legal decision, Nathan. It would affect the girls emotionally too. Of course, he agreed. Take all the time you need. But time was not on their side. 2 days later, Sarah called Nathan from the apartment, her voice tight with controlled panic. Jim was here, she said without preamble. He was waiting when we got home from school. He tried to force his way in, saying he had court papers giving him visitation rights. Nathan's grip tightened on his phone. Are you and the girls okay? We're fine. The neighbor called the police and he left before they arrived. But Nathan, her voice broke slightly, he was completely out of control, screaming that we couldn't keep his kids from him, that he'd take them if he had to. I'm coming over, Nathan decided. Pack overnight bags for you and the girls. You're staying at my place tonight. When he arrived, he found the 3 of them huddled on the couch, the twins unusually quiet, Sarah's face pale but determined. On the coffee table lay a crumpled paper, the court document Jim had presented. It's fake, Sarah explained, as Nathan examined it. Just a printout of a generic custody form with his handwriting filled in. Nathan's concern deepened. Jim was escalating, becoming more desperate and creative in his attempts to reach the twins. The restraining order, the school security, the legal proceedings, none of it seemed sufficient protection against a man willing to forge documents and violate court orders. Sarah, he said quietly, sitting beside her, I know you need time to think about this, but I don't think we have that luxury anymore. Jim is getting more aggressive. Marriage would give us the strongest legal protection for the girls right now. Sarah looked at the twins, who had fell asleep against each other, exhausted by the day's events. What would we tell them? They've been through so much change already. The truth, Nathan suggested, that sometimes grown-ups get married to make a family official and to protect each other, that it doesn't change how much we care for them, just makes our family stronger legally. Sarah turned to face him fully. Is that all it would be to you, a legal arrangement? The question caught Nathan off guard. What do you mean? I mean, Sarah said carefully, that we've been co-parenting for weeks now, living in each other's orbits, making decisions together, creating a family of sorts. Are your feelings purely practical? Nathan hesitated, suddenly aware of a truth he'd been avoiding. In the midst of legal battles and parental concerns, something else had been growing, a rediscovery of what had drawn him to Sarah years ago, now deepened by shared purpose and mutual respect. No, he admitted, they're not purely practical. Sarah's expression softened. Mine neither. The admission hung between them, creating a bridge across years of separation and misunderstanding. Nathan reached for her hand and she let him take it, their fingers intertwining like their daughters often did. So, he said quietly, would you consider marrying me, Sarah? Not just for the girls, but for us too. A real beginning, not just a legal solution. Before she could answer, a loud crash from outside the apartment made them both jump. The sound of heavy footsteps in the hallway followed, then aggressive pounding on the door. Sarah! Jim's voice, slurred and angry, penetrated the thin door. I know you're in there. You can't keep hiding my kids from me. The twins startled. Awake, fear immediately flooding their faces as they recognized the voice. It's Jim, Rose whispered, clutching her sister's hand. Nathan stood, positioning himself between the door and his family. Call 911, he instructed Sarah quietly. As she reached for her phone, Jim's pounding intensified. I'll break this door down, Sarah, you hear me? I want to see my kids now. Nathan moved to the twins, gathering them close. It's going to be okay, he promised. his voice steady despite the fear churning in his stomach. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you." The door shuddered under Jim's assault, the cheap lock beginning to splinter. Sarah finished her call to emergency services, her face pale but composed as she joined Nathan and the girls. "Police are on their way," she whispered. 3 minutes. Nathan nodded, his mind racing through options. They could retreat to the bathroom, lock themselves in until help arrived. But if Jim broke through the main door, a bathroom lock wouldn't stop him. As the door frame began to crack, Nathan made his decision. He would face Jim directly, keep him occupied until police arrived. Whatever happened, he wouldn't let this man anywhere near his daughters. "Stay here," he told Sarah, moving toward the weakening door. She grabbed his arm. "Nathan, don't. He could be dangerous." "I'm not letting him near you or the girls," Nathan replied, gently removing her hand. "Just keep them safe until the police come." The lock gave way with a splintering crack, and the door burst open. Jim stumbled through, his face contorted with rage, his movements uncoordinated from alcohol. "Where are they?" he demanded, scanning the room until his gaze landed on the twins, huddled with Sarah on the couch. "There are my girls." Nathan stepped into his path, blocking his view. "They're not your girls, Jim, and you need to leave before the police get here." Jim's bloodshot eyes narrowed. "You think your money can buy you a family? Those are my daughters. I was there when they were born." "And where were you when they were hungry?" Nathan countered, keeping his voice steady. "When Rose was sick with pneumonia? When they were afraid and alone?" "That's not your business," Jim spat. "Sarah's their mother. I'm their father. You're nothing to them." "He's our real dad," Lily's clear voice cut through the tension. She had stepped forward, still holding her sister's hand, her young face set with determination despite her fear. "We did a test. His DNA matches ours." Jim's expression flickered between confusion and rage. "What are you talking about? Sarah, what have you been telling them?" "The truth," Sarah replied, standing to place protective hands on her daughter's shoulders. "Nathan is their biological father. He's been their father in every way that matters since he found them, which is more than I can say for you." The sound of sirens grew louder outside. Jim's face twisted, realizing his time was running out. He lunged forward, attempting to push past Nathan toward the twins. "You're coming with me," he growled, reaching for Rose. "Both of you! Now!" Nathan reacted instinctively, shoving Jim backward. "Don't touch them!" Jim stumbled, his intoxication making him unsteady, and fell heavily against the coffee table. He lay there momentarily stunned as police officers rushed through the open doorway, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them," an officer commanded. As Jim was handcuffed and led away, shouting threats and accusations, Nathan turned to find the twins and Sarah watching with wide eyes. In that moment, seeing their fear and vulnerability, he made a silent promise. Whatever it took, however long it required, he would protect this family, his family, from anyone who threatened their happiness or security. The responding officers took statements from everyone, noting the violated restraining order and the property damage. They assured the family that Jim would be held pending arraignment, given his multiple violations. After they left, Nathan helped Sarah gather essentials for the night. The twins, quiet and subdued, packed their school bags and favorite stuffed animals. The apartment, with its broken door and evidence of violence, no longer felt like a safe haven. As they prepared to leave, Sarah pulled Nathan aside. "About your question earlier before we were interrupted." Nathan waited, hardly daring to hope. "Yes," she said simply, "not just for legal protection, but for us, for a real beginning." Relief and joy flooded through him. He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll make it official as soon as possible." Sarah's smile was tentative but genuine. "One condition, though, we take it slow, really get to know each other again as people, not just as co-parents." "Agreed," Nathan promised. "We have all the time in the world." As they left the apartment, the twins walking between them, Nathan found himself thinking about how quickly life could change. 1 month ago, he had been a successful but lonely man, focused entirely on building his restaurant empire. Now he was part of something infinitely more valuable, a family created not by obligation or convenience, but by choice and love. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. Jim's threats would need to be addressed, legal battles fought, trust rebuilt, between him and Sarah. But for the first time in years, Nathan felt complete certainty about his direction. Whatever challenges came, they would face them together, all four of them. The Boston family court building stood imposingly against the grey November sky, its stone facade offering no hint of the emotional battles waged within its walls. Nathan adjusted his tie nervously as he, Sarah, and Michael Davidson climbed the steps. "Remember," Michael advised, "Judge Winters is fair but traditional. She'll want to see stability, commitment, and clear evidence that the girl's welfare is your primary concern." Nathan nodded, glancing at Sarah beside him. In the 3 weeks since Jim's arrest, they had been preparing for this day, the preliminary hearing that would determine temporary custody arrangements while Jim's paternity challenge moved through the system. "What about the restraining order?" "Violation?" Sarah asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety Nathan could see in her eyes. "It strengthens our case considerably," Michael assured her. "Jim's still in custody pending trial for that, but his lawyer is arguing that his actions were those of a desperate father being kept from his children." Nathan's jaw tightened. "After he abandoned them for months?" "Family court isn't always logical," Michael reminded him. "Be prepared for emotional appeals and accusations." Inside, the courtroom was smaller than Nathan had imagined, with worn, wooden benches and fluorescent lighting that cast everyone in an unflattering pallor. Their side of the room was well populated. Nathan and Sarah, Michael, Ms. Torres from Social Services, and Principal Warner from the Twins School, all prepared to testify on behalf of the girls. Across the aisle sat a single figure beside a court-appointed attorney, Jim Roberts, newly released on bail with strict conditions, including maintaining the restraining order distance. He looked better than during his drunken rampage, cleaned up, wearing a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit, his expression alternating between contrition and simmering anger. "All rise," called the bailiff as Judge Winters entered, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, with silver hair and piercing eyes that seemed to evaluate everyone instantly. The proceedings began with formal introductions and a summary of the case by each attorney. Michael presented their position first. Nathan was the biological father, newly reunited with his daughters, while Jim had a history of alcoholism, abandonment, and violence. He emphasized the restraining order violation and the twins' fear of Jim. Jim's attorney countered that his client had been the only father the twins had known for most of their lives, that Nathan was a wealthy outsider trying to buy a family, and that Jim's recent behavior stemmed from desperation at being separated from his daughters. "Your Honor," Michael concluded, "we have DNA evidence confirming Mr. Reynolds's paternity. We have documentation of Mr. Roberts's alcoholism and neglect. Most importantly, we have 2 8-year-old girls who have found stability and security for the first time in years. We ask the court to grant temporary full custody to their mother, Ms. Anderson, with liberal visitation for their biological father, Mr. Reynolds, pending their upcoming marriage." Judge Winters raised an eyebrow at this last point. "Marriage? How long have you two been reunited, Ms. Anderson?" Sarah straightened in her seat. "Just over 2 months, Your Honor, but we were together before the twins were born." "And this marriage, is it for the benefit of the court, or a genuine reconciliation?" Nathan felt Sarah tense beside him. Before Michael could intervene with a diplomatic answer, Sarah spoke directly. "Both, Your Honor. We reconnected because of our daughters, but the feelings we once had for each other have returned. We want to build a life together as a family." The judge's expression remained neutral, but Nathan thought he detected a softening around her eyes. "Very well. Mr. Roberts, do you wish to make a statement?" Jim stood, his attorney whispering something urgently in his ear that he seemed to ignore. "Your Honor, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but I love those girls. I was there when they took their first steps, said their first words. This guy," he gestured dismissively toward Nathan, "he didn't even know they existed until a couple months ago. Now he thinks he can just walk in with his money and take over?" "Mr. Roberts," Judge Winters interrupted, Are you currently employed? Jim hesitated. I'm between jobs right now. The economy... And have you been making child support payments to Ms. Anderson? When I could, Jim hedged. It's been tough, lately. According to Ms. Anderson's statement, you haven't contributed financially in over a year, the judge noted, consulting her papers. Is that accurate? I bought them Christmas presents, Jim insisted. Birthday gifts. I was there for the important stuff. Your Honor, Jim's attorney interjected. My client acknowledges his financial shortcomings, but maintains a strong emotional bond with the children. We're asking for supervised visitation to maintain that bond while Mr. Roberts completes alcohol treatment and secures employment. The hearing continued with testimony from Ms. Torres, who described the twins' living conditions before and after Nathan's involvement. Principal Warner spoke about their improved attendance and academic performance in recent weeks. Finally, Judge Winters asked to speak with Lily and Rose privately in her chambers. Nathan and Sarah exchanged worried glances as the twins were led away by the bailiff. What would they say? Would they be too frightened to speak honestly? Would they feel pressured to say they wanted to see Jim? The wait seemed interminable. Nathan reached for Sarah's hand, finding it cold with tension. They'll be okay, he whispered. They're smart girls, they know what they want. When the twins returned, their expressions gave nothing away. They sat quietly in the back of the courtroom with a court officer until Judge Winters returned to deliver her ruling. After reviewing the evidence and speaking with the children, she began, I find that their best interests are served by granting temporary full physical custody to their mother, Sarah Anderson, with shared legal custody between Ms. Anderson and Nathan Reynolds, their biological father. Mr. Reynolds shall have liberal visitation rights as agreed upon by both parties. Nathan felt a surge of relief, but the judge wasn't finished. Regarding James Roberts, she continued, I find that his claim of paternity by establishment is valid under Massachusetts law, despite the biological evidence. However, his recent behavior and ongoing struggles with alcohol make unsupervised contact inadvisable at this time. Jim started to protest, but his attorney silenced him with a hand on his arm. Therefore, Judge Winters concluded, Mr. Roberts may have supervised visitation once monthly at the Family Connection Center, contingent upon his completion of alcohol treatment and anger management classes. This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months. Court is adjourned. The gavel's sharp rap echoed through the room. Nathan exhaled slowly, feeling the tension drain from his body. It wasn't a complete victory. Jim still had some legal standing, but the twins would be safe and secure with them. Outside the courtroom, Jim approached, stopping at the required distance mandated by the restraining order. His expression was hard, his eyes fixed on Sarah. This isn't over, he said quietly. Those girls know who their real dad is. Jim, Sarah replied evenly, you need help. Get the treatment, take the classes. If you really care about Lily and Rose, show it by getting better. Before Jim could respond, his attorney led him away, murmuring urgently about compliance with court orders. Michael shook Nathan's hand. A good outcome, not perfect but solid. The judge clearly believes you and Sarah are providing the best environment for the girls. What happens next? Nathan asked. We proceed with the formal challenge to Robert's paternity, Michael explained. Given today's ruling, I'm optimistic. Once you and Sarah are married, we'll file for your adoption of the twins. That will permanently secure your legal rights as their father. The following weeks brought a whirlwind of activity. Nathan and Sarah, with the twins' enthusiastic input, planned a small December wedding at the Gold Leaf, transformed for the occasion with twinkling lights and evergreen garlands. They moved into a new home, not Nathan's bachelor townhouse or Sarah's cramped apartment, but a spacious Victorian in Brookline with a yard for the girls to play in and rooms they could decorate themselves. Jim, meanwhile, seemed to be taking the judge's orders seriously. Reports from his court-appointed supervisor indicated consistent attendance at AA meetings and anger management sessions. He hadn't attempted contact outside the approved channels, though his monthly supervised visits remained tense and awkward, with the twins polite but distant, 2 days before the wedding, Nathan sat at his desk in the Gold Leaf's office, reviewing final catering details when Marco appeared in the doorway. "There's someone here to see you," he said, his expression troubled. "Jim Roberts." Nathan tensed. "He's violating the restraining order by being here. He says it's important, about the girls. He's sober," Marco added. "I checked." After a moment's hesitation, Nathan nodded. "We'll talk in the dining room. It's public, with witnesses." Jim sat at a corner table looking uncomfortable in the elegant surroundings. He'd lost weight since the court hearing, and his eyes, while still haunted, were clear and alert. "You're violating the restraining order," Nathan said without preamble, remaining standing. "I know," Jim acknowledged. "I'll leave if you want. To call the cops. But I needed to talk to you man to man, without lawyers or judges." Curiosity won out over caution. Nathan sat across from him. "I'm listening." Jim stared at his hands. "I've been sober 62 days now, longest streak since I was 20. The program, it makes you look at yourself. Really look. And I don't like what I see." Nathan remained silent, waiting. "Those girls," Jim continued, his voice rough with emotion, "they're terrified of me. Did you know that? When I see them at the visitation center, they flinch if I move too quickly. They answer my questions like they're being interrogated. No kid should look at their father that way." "No," Nathan agreed, quietly. "They shouldn't. I told myself I was fighting for them because I loved them. But that's not true." Jim looked up, his eyes red-rimmed but dry. "I was fighting because I didn't want to lose. Didn't want some rich guy to take what I thought was mine, but they're not property, they're people. Little people who deserve better than what I've given them." Nathan studied the man across from him, not the belligerent drunk who had terrorized his family, but a broken person struggling toward redemption. "What are you saying, Jim?" "I'm saying I want to withdraw my paternity claim, let you adopt them without a fight. They deserve a real family, and that's what you and Sarah are giving them." Suspicion flickered through Nathan. "In exchange for—" "What?" Jim shook his head. "Nothing, well, almost nothing. I'd like to keep the monthly visits, at least for now. Not as their father, just as someone who cares about them. Maybe someday, when they're older and I've proven I can stay sober, they might want more, but that's up to them." Nathan considered the proposal. It was everything they'd been fighting for, a clean legal break that would allow the adoption to proceed uncontested. But could he trust Jim's sudden change of heart? Why now? The wedding's in 2 days. The adoption hearing is scheduled for January. "Partly because of the wedding," Jim admitted. "Lily mentioned it during our last visit. She was so excited about her flower girl dress, about being part of a real family. I realized I was standing in the way of something good for them, and partly because of my fourth step." Fourth step. In AA, making a fearless moral inventory. Hard to do that, and keep fighting for children who are better off without you in charge. The sincerity in Jim's voice was unmistakable. Nathan made his decision. "I'll need this in writing, legally binding." Already done, Jim reached into his jacket and withdrew a folded document. "My sponsor knows a lawyer. He drew this up pro bono. It's a formal withdrawal of my paternity claim and consent to adoption. All it needs is my signature, witnessed by a notary." Nathan scanned the document, recognizing the legal language that would remove the final obstacle to making the twins legally his. Why bring this to me instead of Sarah? Jim's expression turned shamefaced. "I've hurt her enough, scared her, threatened her. I figured she wouldn't believe me, might think it was another trick. But you're like me in one way. You'd do anything for those girls. I thought you might understand I'm trying to do right by them, finally." Nathan nodded slowly. "I'll discuss this with Sarah and our lawyer. If everything checks out, we can arrange to have this signed and notarized tomorrow." "Thank you," Jim said simply, standing to leave. "Tell the girls, tell them I'm sorry and that I hope they'll be very happy." After Jim departed, Nathan sat for a long moment, processing the unexpected development. Then he called Sarah, asking her to meet him at the restaurant after her shift. When she arrived, he explained Jim's visit and showed her the document. "Do you believe him?" she asked. studying the legal text with a skeptical expression. Strangely, yes, Nathan admitted. He seemed genuinely remorseful. And this document is legitimate. I had Michael review it electronically. Sarah sighed, setting the paper down. 2 months of sobriety doesn't erase years of behavior, but if he's truly trying to change, the girls would benefit from having this resolved peacefully. What about the continued visits? Are you comfortable with that? As long as they remain supervised, yes. Despite everything, the girls did have some good memories with him when they were younger. It might be healthy for them to maintain a limited relationship with him as they process all these changes. The next day, with Michael and a notary present, Jim formally signed away his paternity rights and consented to Nathan's adoption of the twins. The atmosphere was solemn but not tense, a quiet acknowledgement of a chapter closing and a new one beginning. "Take care of them," Jim said as he prepared to leave, meeting Nathan's eyes directly. "They deserve the world." "They'll have it," Nathan promised. The wedding day dawned clear and cold, Boston's skyline crisp against a brilliant blue December sky. The gold leaf had been transformed, its elegant dining room now an intimate ceremony space, with white roses and evergreens adorning every surface. In the small office that served as a bridal suite, Nathan found the twins in their matching flower girl dresses, practicing their petal-tossing technique with serious concentration. "You both look beautiful," he told them, kneeling to their level. "How's Mom doing?" "She's nervous," Rose reported. "Her hands are shaking when she tries to put on her earrings." "Aunt Jenny said that's normal," Lily added. "She said all brides get nervous, even when they're marrying the right person." Nathan smiled at the wisdom. Jenny, Sarah's college roommate who had flown in for the wedding, had become an instant favorite with the twins. "Well, I'm nervous too. Do you think Mom is making the right choice?" The twins exchanged one of their silent communications, then turned identical serious expressions toward him. "Yes," Lily stated firmly. "She smiles more now, even when she thinks no one's looking." "And you don't look sad anymore either," Rose added. "You used to look sad when you thought we couldn't see. Now you don't." Nathan felt his throat tighten with emotion. These perceptive little girls saw so much more than adults gave them credit for. "You know what happens after today, right? The adoption hearing is next month, and then I'll legally be your father, not just biologically, but in every way." "We know," Lily nodded. "We'll have the same last name and everything. Are you okay with that? Becoming Lily and Rose Reynolds?" Rose tilted her head thoughtfully. "Will we still be Andersons too, like in the middle? Rose Anderson Reynolds?" "If that's what you want," Nathan assured them. "We can talk to the judge about it." "I think that would be good," Lily decided, "to keep part of our old name and add our new one, so we remember where we came from and where we're going." Nathan marveled at her insight. That sounds perfect. A knock at the door interrupted them. "It's time," Jenny called. "Flower girls needed in position." The ceremony itself was simple but meaningful. Just 30 guests, including restaurant staff, who had become like family, friends of both Nathan and Sarah, and teachers from the twins' school. Marco served as best man, Jenny as matron of honor, and the twins preceded Sarah down the aisle, solemnly dropping rose petals with mathematical precision. When Sarah appeared in a simple ivory sheath dress, her blonde hair adorned with a circlet of white roses, Nathan felt his breath catch. This woman who had come back into his life so unexpectedly had transformed it completely. What had begun as an obligation had become the greatest gift he'd ever received. Their vows were traditional with personal additions, promises not just to each other, but to the twins as well. When Nathan slipped the wedding band onto Sarah's finger, he saw tears in her eyes matching his own. "By the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts," the officiant concluded, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." As their lips met, sealing their new beginning, Nathan heard the twins' delighted applause. When they separated, he found himself engulfed in a family hug, the twins wrapping their arms around both adults. "We're officially a family now," Rose announced happily. "We already were," Lily corrected her sister. "Now everybody else knows it too." The reception that followed was joyous but intimate, with Marco's special menu and a small three-tiered cake that the twins helped cut with great ceremony. As the afternoon progressed, Nathan found himself watching his new family from across the room, Sarah laughing with Jenny, the twins teaching Marco's son a clapping game they'd learned at school. "Congratulations," Michael said, joining him, with a glass of champagne. "The adoption hearing is just a formality now. With Jim's consent and the marriage certificate, you'll legally be their father before the end of January." "Thank you," Nathan replied sincerely, "for everything." As the celebration continued around them, Nathan reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past few months. From finding two hungry children digging through his restaurant's garbage to creating a family he'd never known he wanted, life had taken an unexpected and beautiful turn. Later that evening, as the reception wound down, Nathan found Sarah standing by the window watching snow begin to fall gently over Boston's streets. "Happy?" he asked, slipping his arm around her waist. She leaned against him. "More than I ever thought possible. When I left Boston 8 years ago, heartbroken and pregnant, I never imagined we'd end up here." "I wish I'd known," Nathan said softly. "About the pregnancy, about them." "I wish that too now," Sarah admitted, "but maybe we needed those years apart. Maybe you weren't ready to be the man you are today." Nathan considered this. "You're probably right. The Nathan Reynolds who let you walk away wasn't prepared to be a father. He was too selfish, too driven by the wrong things. And now? Now, I understand what really matters." He drew her closer. "It took 2 little girls digging through my garbage to show me, but I finally get it." Sarah smiled, turning in his arms to face him. "What matters most, Mr. Reynolds?" "Family," he answered simply. "Not the restaurants, not the success, not the money. Just this, you, the girls, the life we're building together." Across the room, the twins had fallen asleep on a bench, their flower girl dresses rumpled, their heads leaning together as always. Tomorrow they would begin their new life in their new home, the first day of their future as a legal family. The path hadn't been easy, and challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, but Nathan knew with absolute certainty that they would face them together. As if reading his thoughts, Sarah squeezed his hand. "The girls asked me something this morning. They wanted to know if they could start calling you Dad after the wedding." Nathan's heart swelled with emotion. "What did you tell them?" "That they should ask you themselves," Sarah replied, "but that I thought you'd like nothing better in the world." Nathan looked again at his sleeping daughters, no longer strangers, no longer just biological connections, but the center of his world alongside their mother. "They'd be right," he said softly. "There's nothing I'd like better." 5 months after the wedding, spring bloomed across Boston, painting the city in fresh greens and vibrant flowers. In the Reynolds Brookline Victorian, the transformation was both literal and metaphorical, the gardens coming to life under Sarah's careful tending, while inside, their newly official family flourished. The adoption had been finalized in January, a relatively straightforward proceeding, given Jim's formal consent. The twins had indeed become Lily Anderson Reynolds and Rose Anderson Reynolds, their middle name preserving their connection to their past while embracing their future. Each girl now had her own bedroom for the first time in their lives, though Nathan often found them sleeping together anyway, their twin bond as strong as ever. On this particular Saturday morning in May, Nathan stood at the stove flipping chocolate chip pancakes, now a cherished family tradition, while listening to the cheerful chaos around him. Sarah sat at the island reviewing the books for the Gold Leaf, which she now managed with remarkable efficiency. Lily was setting the table with mathematical precision, while Rose arranged wildflowers they'd picked from the garden yesterday. "Dad!" Lily called, the word still sending a thrill through Nathan, even after months of hearing it. "Ms. Abernathy said we need to bring our family trees to school on Monday. How do we make one that shows everything right?" Nathan glanced at Sarah, who looked up from her work with a small smile. Family trees had become a complex subject in their household. Well, he said, sliding a pancake onto a plate. "We could make it show that I'm your biological father, but that you didn't know me until last year, and that Jim was part of your lives when you were younger." Rose frowned, arranging a daisy with intense focus. "But that's confusing. Can't we just put you and Mom at the top?" "You can make your family tree however feels right to you," Sarah assured her. "Family isn't just about biology. It's about who loves you and takes care of you. Like how Marco and Elena are kind of like our uncle and aunt, even though they're not really related to us," Lily asked, referring to Nathan's head chef and his wife, who had become regular fixtures at family dinners. "Exactly," Nathan confirmed, serving the first round of pancakes. "Family is who you choose, as much as who you're born to." The twins seemed satisfied with this explanation, moving on to eager anticipation of their afternoon plans. A trip to the Boston Children's Museum, followed by ice cream at their favorite shop by the harbor. Nathan marveled at their resilience, their ability to adapt to the dramatic changes in their lives with optimism and joy. The doorbell rang as they were finishing breakfast. Sarah went to answer it, returning with a surprised expression, and Jim Roberts following several steps behind. Nathan felt a momentary tension. Although Jim had maintained his sobriety and attended his monthly supervised visits faithfully, he rarely contacted them outside those scheduled times. "Jim," Nathan acknowledged, standing, "this is unexpected." "Sorry to interrupt your weekend," Jim said, looking uncomfortable but clear-eyed. "I wouldn't have come without calling, but I got some news yesterday and I wanted to tell you and the girls in person." The twins watched curiously from the table, their expressions cautious but not fearful. In the months since Jim's dramatic change of heart, their relationship with him had evolved into something resembling a distant uncle, not intimate, but no longer frightening. "Girls, why don't you go upstairs and get ready for the museum while we talk to Jim?" Sarah suggested. "Is everything okay?" Rose asked, her perceptive eyes moving between the adults. "Everything's fine," Jim assured her with a gentle smile that still looked unpracticed on his face. "I just need to tell your parents something. We can talk before you leave, okay?" Once the twins had disappeared upstairs, Jim accepted the coffee Sarah offered and sat at the kitchen island. "I've been offered a job in Seattle," he said without preamble. "A good one, with my brother's construction company. He's been sober 10 years, has a support system out there for me." Nathan nodded slowly, processing the implications. "When would you leave?" "End of next week." Jim stared into his coffee. "I wanted to tell the girls myself, and to talk about how we handle the visits going forward." Sarah sat beside Nathan, their shoulders touching in silent support. "We could arrange video calls," she suggested, "until you're settled. Then maybe they could visit during summer break if they're comfortable with that." Jim shook his head. "That's the other thing I wanted to discuss. I've been thinking a lot about my role in their lives. They're thriving now. They have a real family, stability, parents who are there for them every day. I think—" He paused, visibly struggling. "I think a clean break might be better for everyone." Nathan studied the man across from him, once an adversary, now something more complicated. "Are you sure that's what you want, Jim? The girls have come to expect your visits." "It's not about what I want," Jim replied, a new maturity in his voice. "It's about what's best for them. They deserve to move forward without constantly being reminded of the bad times, without wondering if I'm going to revert to the person I was." "People can change," Sarah said quietly. "You have?" Jim smiled sadly. "Maybe. But some wounds don't need reopening every month. They're calling Nathan Dad now. They're happy. I don't want to confuse things." The three adults talked for nearly an hour, working through the complex emotions and practical considerations of Jim's decision. When they finally called the twins down, Jim explained his move to Seattle in simple terms, emphasizing the opportunity to work with his brother and start fresh. "Will we still see you sometimes?" Rose asked, her young face serious. Jim knelt to her level. "Probably not for a while, Rosie. Seattle's very far away, but I'll send cards for your birthdays and Christmas. And when you're older, if you want to get in touch, your parents have my information." "Are you sad about leaving?" Lily asked perceptively. Jim considered the question with surprising honesty. "I'm sad about missing you both grow up, but I'm happy knowing you're exactly where you should be, with people who love you more than anything." After Jim left with promises to say a proper goodbye before his departure, the family proceeded with their museum plans. As they walked through the interactive exhibits, Nathan noticed the twins processing the news in their own ways, Lily more thoughtful and quiet, Rose asking practical questions about how far Seattle was and whether people needed passports to go there. That evening, after the girls were in bed, Nathan found Sarah in their garden, sitting on a bench beneath the flowering cherry tree they'd planted to commemorate the adoption. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, joining her. Sarah leaned against him. "I'm thinking about how much has changed in a year. Last spring I was working 3 jobs, barely keeping the girls fed, terrified of losing them." She looked up at the house, warm light glowing from the twins' windows. "Now look at us." "Do you think Jim's making the right decision? About cutting contact?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I think he's trying to, finally. It can't be easy for him walking away. But he sees what we've built, how happy the girls are. That takes a kind of courage I wouldn't have expected from him a year ago." Nathan nodded, thinking of Jim's expression as he'd said goodbye to the twins, sad but resolved, with a maturity that had been absent in their early confrontations. "People can surprise you." "Like you," Sarah said, turning to face him. "The Nathan Reynolds I knew 8 years ago would never have taken in 2 strange children digging through his garbage, would never have fought so hard to be their father." "I was different then," Nathan acknowledged, "focused on the wrong things. Success meant restaurants, awards, expansion. Now," he gestured toward their home, "now it's this, them, you." Sarah smiled, leaning in to kiss him softly. "I have news too, actually. I was waiting for the right moment." "News?" Nathan pulled back slightly to see her face. "Good news, I hope." "The best kind," Sarah confirmed, her eyes bright in the garden's dim light. "I'm pregnant, about 8 weeks along. The doctor confirmed it yesterday." Nathan froze, joy and shock washing over him in equal measure. We're having a baby?" Sarah nodded, watching his reaction carefully. "Is that okay? I know we hadn't discussed expanding our family yet, with everything else going on." "Okay?" Nathan pulled her into a tight embrace. "Sarah, it's wonderful." "A baby." He placed his hand gently on her still flat stomach, marveling at the miracle growing within. "The girls will be so excited to be big sisters." "I thought we'd tell them tomorrow," Sarah suggested. "Make it a special breakfast announcement." Nathan nodded, his mind already racing with plans and possibilities. "We'll need to convert the home office to a nursery, and I should adjust my schedule at the restaurants to be home more when the baby comes, and—" Sarah laughed, pressing a finger to his lips. "We have time, 7 months give or take. Let's just enjoy this moment first." They sat together in the peaceful garden, hands intertwined, imagining their future as a family of 5. Nathan thought about the incredible journey that had brought them here, from a chance encounter behind his restaurant to this moment of perfect contentment. "I never thought I'd have this," he admitted quietly. "To family, children. For so long I convinced myself I didn't want it, that success meant something else entirely. And now I know better." He squeezed her hand. "Success is watching Lily figure out a difficult math problem. It's seeing Rose's face when she masters a new song on the piano. It's coming home to you every night." The following morning, they gathered the twins at the breakfast table for the announcement. Nathan had prepared special pancakes shaped like letters spelling Big Sisters across their plates, though the message required some explanation. "Big sisters?" Lily repeated, looking confused. "But we're already sisters." "Yes, but soon you'll be sisters to someone else too," Sarah explained gently. "I'm going to have a baby. You're going to have a little brother or sister around Christmas time." The twins' reactions were everything Nathan and Sarah had hoped for. Initial shock followed by excited questions, speculations about whether it would be a boy or girl, and detailed plans for how they would help care for their new sibling. "Can we tell our friends at school?" Rose asked eagerly. "Of course," Sarah agreed. "But remember, it's still early. The baby is very tiny right now, just growing and getting stronger. Like when I had pneumonia and had to rest and take medicine to get stronger? Rose asked, making connections in her practical way. Something like that, Nathan confirmed with a smile. Later that day, as the girls helped Sarah plant summer flowers in the garden, Nathan retreated to his home office to make some calls. The first was to Michael Davidson, to update their wills and family documentation to include the expected new addition. The second was to his restaurant manager, beginning the process of restructuring his work commitments to allow more family time. The final call was one he'd been considering for months, to a real estate agent about a property in Cape Cod he'd had his eye on. A summer home close to the beach, where the children could spend vacations building sandcastles and collecting seashells, where they could make family memories year after year, traditions that would bind them together long after the children were grown. As spring turned to summer, their anticipation grew alongside Sarah's gently rounding belly. The twins insisted on helping prepare the nursery, offering strong opinions on colors and themes. Lily favored a space motif, while Rose advocated for an underwater scene. They eventually compromised on a nature theme, featuring both the night, sky and the ocean, working together to paint a mural on one wall with Nathan's help. Jim Roberts departed for Seattle as planned, saying goodbye to the twins with unexpected grace. He left them each a letter to be opened when they turned 18, entrusting the sealed envelopes to Nathan and Sarah with the request that they support whatever relationship the girls might want with him in the future. In August, they took their first family vacation to the Cape Cod house, now purchased and renovated for comfort. Nathan watched from the deck as Sarah and the girls explored the beach below, collecting shells and testing the water. The twins' identical blonde heads bobbed as they ran along the shoreline, occasionally bringing treasures for Sarah to examine. This was what he'd been missing all those years focused on building his restaurant empire. Not the material success, he'd achieved that, but the profound joy of belonging to something larger than himself, a family created through both chance and choice, bonds formed by love rather than obligation. As summer faded into fall, the family settled into rhythms that centered around the twins' school activities and preparations for the baby. Sarah, now showing prominently, had stepped back from day-to-day management at the Gold Leaf, though she still handled the accounting from home. Nathan had successfully delegated more responsibility to his management team, allowing him to be home for dinner every night and to attend the twins' school events without exception. In late September, an ultrasound revealed they were expecting a boy. The twins were ecstatic at the prospect of a brother, immediately launching into debates about names and planning how they would teach him important skills like reading and tying shoes. "What do you think about naming him after your father?" Sarah suggested one evening as they lay in bed, her head on Nathan's chest. "William was a good man. He'd be proud of the family you've created." Nathan felt a surge of emotion at the thought of his adoptive father, who had taken in a troubled foster child and shown him what true parenting meant. "William Reynolds. It has a nice sound to it." "William James," Sarah added softly, to acknowledge Jim's role in bringing us all together, in a way. Nathan considered this, appreciating the gesture's symbolism. "William James Reynolds. We could call him Will or Liam." "The girls will have opinions," Sarah predicted with a smile. "They've been lobbying for superhero names." "William Batman Reynolds does have a certain ring to it," Nathan teased. As autumn painted Boston in brilliant reds and golds, the twins celebrated their 9th birthday with a party in the backyard. Nathan watched them surrounded by friends from school, so different from the frightened, hungry children he'd found behind his restaurant just over a year ago. They were thriving academically, making friends easily, pursuing new interests. Rose in music and art, Lily in science and mathematics. More subtle but equally important were the emotional changes. The wariness that had once shadowed their eyes had disappeared, replaced by the confident expectation that their needs would be met, their voices heard, their feelings respected. They still maintained their special twin connection, but had opened their circle to include Nathan fully, seeking his advice, sharing their secrets, calling for him in the night when bad dreams occasionally surfaced. In late November, As Sarah entered her final weeks of pregnancy, Nathan found himself increasingly reflective. One evening, after tucking the twins into bed with extra stories, a nightly ritual he cherished, he joined Sarah in the nursery, where she was folding tiny clothes. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, noting his contemplative expression. "You've been quiet tonight." Nathan ran his hand over the crib rail, imagining the son who would soon sleep there. "I was thinking about what Lily said on our wedding day, about keeping part of their old name and adding their new one to remember where they came from and where they're going." Sarah smiled, setting down a folded onesie. She's always been wise beyond her years. "That's what we've all done, isn't it? Kept parts of our past, the important parts, while building something new together." He moved to Sarah, placing his hands gently on her rounded belly. "I never would have found you and the girls if not for my childhood in foster care. That experience taught me to recognize children in need, to understand hunger and fear when I saw it. And I might never have created such independent, resilient daughters if I hadn't struggled as a single mother," Sarah acknowledged. "Those years were hard, but they shaped all three of us." "Even Jim found his better self through this journey," Nathan added. "Sometimes the most difficult paths lead to the most important destinations." As if responding to his father's voice, the baby kicked against Nathan's palm. Sarah laughed, covering his hand with hers. "He agrees with his wise father." 2 weeks before Christmas, William James Reynolds made his entrance into the world. A healthy 8-pound boy with a shock of dark hair like Nathan's and eyes that promised to become as blue as his mother's and sister's. The twins, brought to the hospital by Marco and Elena, approached their new brother with identical expressions of wonder and immediate devotion. "He's so tiny," Rose whispered, gently touching his hand with her finger. "But his grip is strong," Lily observed as the baby clutched her offered finger. "That's a good sign. I read that in my baby book." Nathan watched his family with overwhelming gratitude, Sarah radiant despite her exhaustion, the twins already shifting into their roles as protective big sisters, baby Will peaceful in his mother's arms. The circle that had begun with 2 hungry children digging through garbage was now complete, expanded by love and commitment. On Christmas morning, their first as a family of 5, Nathan woke early to the sound of Will's hungry cries. He lifted his son from the bassinet beside their bed, allowing Sarah a few more precious minutes of sleep before the twins inevitably burst in with excitement. Carrying Will downstairs, Nathan settled in the living room armchair before the twinkling tree. In the dim pre-dawn light, he studied his son's perfect features, the tiny nose, the rosebud mouth, the dark eyelashes against cherub cheeks. "You have quite a family waiting to meet you, little man," he whispered. 2 amazing big sisters who already have your whole life planned out, a mother who's the strongest, most loving person I've ever known, and me, a father who never knew how much he wanted you until he found your sisters." Will's eyes opened, seeming to focus on Nathan's face with uncanny awareness. Nathan smiled, feeling the connection between them strengthen with each passing day. "Family isn't just about blood," he continued softly. "It's about who loves you, who shows up for you, who makes room in their heart for you. Your sisters taught me that, and I promise I'll never forget it." The sound of small feet on the stairs announced the twins' arrival. They appeared in the doorway in matching Christmas pajamas, their excitement tempered by consideration for their sleeping brother. "Is he awake?" Lily whispered. "Can we hold him?" Rose added hopefully. Nathan nodded, making room for them on the oversized chair. With practiced care, they had been diligently practicing with dolls for months. They positioned themselves on either side of him as he transferred Will into their waiting arms, supporting him between them. "Merry first Christmas, Will," Lily murmured. "We're your big sisters," Rose added seriously. "We'll always take care of you." Sarah appeared in the doorway, her phone raised to capture the moment. Nathan surrounded by their children, the morning light casting a golden glow over the scene. The love that radiated between them was almost tangible, a force that had transformed 5 separate lives into one intertwined story. Later, as they opened presents and shared breakfast, Nathan found himself watching his family with a profound sense of gratitude. His journey from lonely success to meaningful connection had been unexpected but perfect in its way. The restaurants, the accolades, the financial achievements all paled in comparison to the wealth he'd found in these four people. That evening, after the excitement of the day had faded and the twins were playing quietly with their new gifts, Baby Will sleeping peacefully in his bassinet nearby, Nathan pulled Sarah close on the sofa. "Happy?" he asked, echoing the question he'd asked at their wedding reception. "Beyond words," she replied, nestling against him. "You've given us so much, Nathan." He shook his head. "No, you and the girls gave me everything. You showed me what truly matters, what real success looks like." He gestured toward their home, not the expensive furnishings or tasteful decorations, but the evidence of life lived together. Twin jackets hung side by side on hooks, small shoes lined up by the door, baby toys scattered on the rug, family photos covering the walls. This is wealth. This is everything. As the snow fell gently outside their windows, coating Boston in a fresh blanket of white, the Reynolds family began their first holiday season together, not the last chapter of their story, but the first pages of a new volume. Their past had brought them together through an unlikely series of events, but their future would be written by choice, by love, by the family they had created, not through blood alone, but through open hearts and the courage to embrace second chances. In the years to come, they would face challenges and celebrate triumphs, watch their children grow and change, build traditions and memories that would sustain them through life's inevitable storms. But the foundation had been laid in that moment behind a restaurant, when a successful but lonely man chose compassion over indifference, when two hungry children found not just food, but family, when separate paths converged to create a journey shared. For Nathan Reynolds, who had once measured his worth in stars from critics and profitable balance sheets, the definition of success had been forever transformed. Now it resided in morning pancakes and bedtime stories, in science projects and piano recitals, in a baby's first smile and a wife's knowing glance. It lived in the knowledge that no matter what